As American GIs shipped out to fight the Nazis and the Japs, they wanted to ensure that they wouldn't be the last to carry on their family names. Either that, or they were just looking to score some Whatever the motive for f***ing like rabbits, the departing soldiers left in their wake scores of neglected, abandoned children. It was on these humble souls that the baby boom would build. Really, it was the relieved survivor sex of the returning U.S. soldiers that brought the bulk of the baby boom. These men had survived the horrors of D-Day, the Battle of the Bulge, Iwo Jima, and many other violent skirmishes that I know nothing about. On top of that, America emerged from World War II as the only untouched manufacturing infrastructure of all the Allied nations. We had the capacity, we had the manpower, and everyone else had been bombed to shit. This newfound wealth provided the metaphorical feather bed on which to conceive multiple children. It also provided the fertile playground in which these children could grow, and the easy lifestyle in which these children would come of age. Suburbs proliferated, and Leave It to Beaver neighborhoods teemed with happy-go-lucky kids wearing coonskin hats, riding pedal cars, and using firecrackers to terrorize kittens. Dad went to work in a middle management position, and Mom happily stayed home to cook, clean, and incubate more offspring in her fertile womb. Soon, these children grew, and their mothers became barren. Adolescence was filled with cars, proms, and sock hops, and of course the ever-present fear of a nuclear bomb being dropped by the Soviets, and the apocalypse that would follow due to the doubtless counterstrikes. A happy time to come of age, indeed. Of course, the Cold War heated up in a small former French colony in Southeast Asia. In order to fully come of age, boomers had to go thousands of miles from home and watch their buddies die in the muck. Those 20-somethings not yet conscripted rebelled against the forced violence of the government through protests, dressing like vagrants, boycotting showers, and destroying as many brain cells as possible with mind-altering drugs and consequence-free sex. While young white adults were finding their inner gypsy, Black America was asserting its place through nonviolent protest, boycotts, and memorable speeches involving dream imagery. By 1964, African Americans had achieved complete equality, and their lives have been utopian ever since. A much harder and larger fight awaited the rest of the generation concerning the Vietnam War. After tons of tie-dye had been worn, truckloads of patchouli had been burned, and a farmer's field had been rendered completely useless due to a 3-day rock concert, the war raged on. The government was at odds with the will of a large section of the population, and it took the brilliant diplomacy of the great humanists Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon to finally end the war, and with it, the 1960s, in 1973. Thus, the celebration began, and the decade-long disco that was the 1970s raged on, fueled by cocaine, polyester, and the kind of mindless consumption that results in crippling inflation and a gasoline shortage. Now a voting power, though not yet presidential material, they elected the next best thing to their own ideals, an actor who would play president for the next 8 years, and consume an inconceivable quantity of jelly beans.
All right, if you insist. Now, wait a minute. What's your name? Kip. George Kip. What's yours?
Ronald Reagan and the baby boomers were a perfect fit. While he could toe the twin lines of nuclear disarmament and space-age brinksmanship, so too could these young people, flush with giddiness and corporate salaries, reconcile their support of federal program cuts with their earlier freeloading ways.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Together, they plunged the nation into record debt and illegal secret wars in various South American countries, having learned their lesson about illegal, not secret wars in South Asia 2 decades earlier. By the 1990s, the fall of the Soviet Union put in place a new world power structure no longer dominated by nation-states with competing ideologies, but by multinational corporations with competing bottom lines. By now, boomers had become the heads of those corporations as well as the country. Bill Clinton, the first president from the second greatest generation, typified the boomer ethos. While working to improve already perfect race relations and healthcare options, he was at the same time seeking personal gratification through real estate schemes and getting his knob polished at work.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The 90s also saw the second greatest generation finally pick up the innovative impulse of their parents with the technological explosion centered in Seattle and Silicon Valley. People routinely made millions, almost overnight, in this ultimate achievement of the American dream by sitting on their asses in front of computers. Also in line with the American dream mythology, they lost that fortune just as quickly, and companies with puppet mascots disappeared as rapidly as the National Endowment for the Arts had in 1989. The nation and its leading generation seemed to have lost direction. Divisive issues that had defined them in earlier decades had all but vanished. It was up to a leader of the second greatest generation to provide those polarizing unifiers for the new century. In 2000, that leader emerged. George W. Bush jump-started the nation's ideological engines, first by stealing the electoral vote in Florida, then by dividing the nation through faith-based initiatives and governance. When the World Trade Center and Pentagon were attacked in 2001, the direction was clear. It was time to engage the nation in an ideological struggle expressed through violent conflict on foreign soil. The very thing that had propelled this generation to second greatness in the 1960s.